Coming to progression-free survival, so when we look at the uh, head-to-head studies and the cross-trial comparisons of the progression-free survival, we can clearly see how we have improved the progression-free survival over the decades, uh, from gefitinib to erlotinib and afatinib, to again further improvement in dacomitinib, and then we have the highest PFS of around 18.9 months with osimertinib as in the FLORA data. And we can see clearly how osimertinib fares much better as to others so far as PFS is concerned. So this is the overall survival data of FLORA study, which is the study which compared first line osimertinib versus gefitinib in EGFR mutated advanced non-small cell lung cancers. And we can clearly see at the timelines of 12 months, 24 months, as well as 36 months, there is a significant number of patients in the osimertinib arm which is surviving more. And there is a overall 10% higher overall survival advantage that is seen at 3 years. We look at the median overall survival is 38.6 months in the osimertinib arm as compared to 31.8 months in the gefitinib arm, with a hazard of 0.79 and a significant p-value of 0.04, saying that osimertinib has almost 7 months median overall survival advantage when it's used in the first line setting. And this is where first time we have seen that an EGFR TKI has translated the progression-free survival to a significant OS benefit. Now, if we compare this to the other TKI, especially the second generation TKIs, so we can clearly see that in the Lux Lung 7 study, which compared first line afatinib versus gefitinib, there was no overall survival advantage. There was a trend towards it, numerically higher overall survival of 27.9 months versus 24.5 months. So, a numerically higher 3.5 months in the afatinib arm, but this was not as significant. Uh, and if you look at the Archer study, so Archer study did show a higher PFS as well as OS with dacomitinib as compared to gefitinib. However, if you look at the statistical hierarchical gatekeeping analysis that was used, so it was based on the hypothesis that if the PFS is higher, then we'll look at the overall response, and the overall response rate is better. Then only the we will look at the OS. So the overall response rate was not statistically significant between the two arms, and hence a formal statistical hypothesis testing for OS was not conducted. So these are just exploratory overall survival results. However, these are numerically higher as well as statistically significant, but it was not entirely statistically correct to conduct this overall survival analysis, and therefore this is sort of a dent on the Archer 1050 OS data. Although there was an OS advantage of around 7 to 8 months in the dacomitinib arm. So question is, will the type of mutation at baseline change the choice of EGFR TKI? Well, yes, this is one of the factors. Although when you look at progression-free survival, we can see that the EGFR in EGFR mutation, whether it is exon 19 or whether it is exon 21, both had a significant PFS advantage with osimertinib. However, in the afatinib data, we can see that the advantage was not so significant, because we can see the confidence interval touching the median. And even in the dacomitinib arm, we can see that the PFS was higher in both exon 19 as well as exon 21. However, they have not shown you the overall survival data. And if you look at the overall survival data, what you would realize is that in the FLORA study, the overall survival advantage was only in the exon 19 deletion, whereas in the L858 arm, actually the this point was touching the median. So in L858R, probably there is no overall survival advantage with osimertinib, but the PFS advantage still remains. Another question is, what is the CNS efficacy, whether the brain metastasis is there or not in the baseline, and what is the propensity towards developing brain metastasis in future. And with this, we can clearly see that osimertinib crossing the blood-brain barrier has a very good efficacy. And if you look at the CNS PFS, that is patients who had a CNS disease and what was their progression-free survival. So in the FLORA data, we can see that the CNS response rate was also much higher, significantly higher with osimertinib, as well as the CNS PFS was not reached versus was 13.9 months in the gefitinib arm. So it was significantly better with osimertinib. Similarly, with afatinib also, we can see that the CNS PFS is better with afatinib. However, we must know that in the Archer study, there were brain metastasis patients were excluded, and therefore, we can't apply the PFS and the OS advantage of dacometinib to patients who have brain metastasis in baseline, and therefore, patients who have brain metastasis in baseline, they are not candidates for dacometinib. If you look at the safety summary, I think with our clinical experience, we can safely conclude that the safest TKI is osimertinib, followed by the first generation TKI, followed by the second generation TKI. And if you look at the grade 3, grade 4 toxicities, so the most common toxicities are rash, diarrhea, and stomatitis. And we can clearly see that these grade 3 events are less than 5%, no, only 1% to 3% in the osimertinib arm, whereas they are around, around 5% in the gefitinib and erlotinib, whereas they are more than 10% with afatinib as well as with dacometinib. And if you look at overall adverse events which are more than grade 3, they are around 43% with osimertinib, but much higher, around 49% and 63% with dacometinib and afatinib. Look at the discontinuations due to adverse events, they are also much higher with dacometinib as well as afatinib, whereas they are much less, only 15% with osimertinib. Quality of life data, yes, these are also important, and we can see that in Archer study on the left, there was actually a deterioration that was there in some of the quality of life scores, especially for sore mouth, for diarrhea, and as well as for the global quality of life. So they were not improved in the Archer study, whereas in the uh, FLORA data with osimertinib, we can see that the global quality of life as well as most of the complaints of patients were improved from baseline, and there was no clinically relevant differences between the groups, stating that there are no higher toxicities again. These are the non-small cell lung cancer NCCN guidelines, and the guidelines also say that osimertinib is a preferred category 1 option for EGFR mutated non-small cell lung cancers at baseline, whereas the other recommendations are also there. The category 1 recommendation for erlotinib, afatinib, gefitinib, dacometinib also. So, but the preferred category that is being used by NSC by NCCN for osimertinib gives it a definite advantage. So, what we can conclude from all this slides that we have discussed is that the mutations in the tyrosine kinase domain of EGFR drive multiple biological processes leading to cancer growth and making them ideal targets for treatment. The recommended first line options for advanced NSCLC with EGFR mutations are gefitinib, erlotinib, afatinib, dacometinib, and the third generation osimertinib. And osimertinib has shown a significantly higher progression-free survival significantly higher overall survival as well as the CNS efficacy, and is much more tolerable and gives a better quality of life than the first and second generation EGFR TKIs. So osimertinib continues to be a standard of care for first line treatment of patients with EGFR mutated advanced NSCLC. Now let us look at a role of EGFR TKIs in adjuvant setting in early non-small cell lung cancers and how we have evolved on this. So surgery is the primary treatment in early lung cancer, and adjuvant cisplatin based chemotherapy has been a rule. It is recommended for resected stage 2 and stage 3A and selected patients of stage 1B, especially if their tumor size is more than 4 centimeter of, or they are having visceral pleura involvement. Now, there have been numerous large randomized trials as well as meta analysis showing that the 5-year overall survival benefit with adjuvant chemotherapy in patients with early lung cancer is overall around 5%. Again, differing as per the stages, less in the lesser stages and a higher benefit in the higher stages. With a hazard for OS of around 0.89 and a hazard for DFS of around 0.84. Now, if you look at these hazards and if you look at the delta of 5%, we obviously see that this is an unmet need. And we definitely need to improve on the overall survival as well as the DFS of our patients who have been operated for lung cancer. The disease recurrences and deaths following surgery as well as adjuvant chemotherapy still remain high across all disease stages. And what we can see is that the 5-year recurrences is even in stage 1B is almost to the tune of 45%, increases to 62% in stage 2 and 76% in stage 3. Now, post surgery in the adjuvant setting, they obviously represent poor survival, poor outcomes, and this is an unmet need. We need to improve upon that. Now, the current paradigm now has changed, and we have started to recognize the importance of what is the histology, what is the tumor grade, what is the PD-L1 expression, what is the driver mutations in early setting also, as well as the advanced setting. And when we look at the most common somatic mutation, this is EGFR mutations only. And from the metastatic setting, we know how EGFR TKIs have shown superior response rate, superior PFS and OS as compared to chemotherapy. So on the basis of this, it is an obvious selection that we need to improve the outcomes in early setting by introducing these EGFR TKIs in the selected eligible patients. Now, why osimertinib and why not others? Because osimertinib again has overall survival advantage as compared to other TKIs. We can see a clear OS advantage and we can see higher response rates. So it is obvious that osimertinib is an obvious choice. Another important aspect is that most of the patients who fail the adjuvant treatment and have recurrence, so we see CNS as a very common and a higher incidence. So CNS site as a site of recurrence is very high. It's almost to the tune of 41%. And because osimertinib has an action on the CNS, it crosses the blood-brain barrier. The chance that it will control the disease in CNS is much higher, and therefore osimertinib is also again becomes a natural choice. So this is the ADAURA data which was published in NEJM 2020. Osimertinib as adjuvant therapy in patients with stage 1B to stage 3A EGFR positive non-small cell lung cancer after complete tumor resection. So this was a double-blind study, phase 3, and patients with resected stage 1B to stage 3A NSCLC were included. Patients were allowed to receive adjuvant chemotherapy, and there were a significant number of patients that actually received adjuvant chemotherapy, and they must be having a confirmed non-squamous histology, as we're having also EGFR exon 19 or L858R mutations. Brain imaging should be must if not completed pre-operatively, and they should have had complete resection with negative margins. The maximum interval that was allowed between surgery and randomization was 10 weeks without adjuvant chemo and 26 weeks including adjuvant chemo. These patients were randomized 1 is to 1 is to osimertinib as well as the placebo arm, and they were stratified as per the stage 1b versus stage 2 versus stage 3a. What was the type of EGFR mutation? Exon 19 versus exon 21, and the race, Asian versus non-Asian. The planned treatment duration was 3 years, and the treatment will continue till disease recurrence or treatment completed, that is total duration of 3 years, or discontinuation criteria met, and they would were followed every 12 weeks to 24 weeks, and for until they have detected with recurrence till 5 years and then yearly. The primary endpoint was DFS, as well as secondary endpoint was DFS in the entire population. And the primary endpoint was DFS in the stage 2, stage 3A patients, which were designed for superiority under the assumed DFS hazard of zero point 0.7. So, following the IDMC recommendation, the study was unblinded early due to efficacy, and here we report an unplanned interim analysis. And at the time of unblinding, the study had completed enrollment, and all patients were followed up for at least 1 year. So, these are the inclusion and exclusion criteria. Nothing much more than what I have discussed. Uh, Only to say that patients who had wedge resections or segmentectomies, that is limited surgeries, were actually excluded, and patients who had exceeded the time beyond 10 weeks if no adjuvant chemotherapy, or 26 weeks if there were no adjuvant chemotherapy, were excluded. Also, patients who had received pre-op or post-op radiotherapy were excluded, as well as patients who had received neoadjuvant chemotherapy were actually excluded, and their patients should not have taken prior EGFR TKIs. These are the baseline characteristics, and we can see they're quite balanced in both the arms. Smokers and non-smokers are also quite balanced. Asian, non-Asian are also balanced. Male and female patients are balanced, and most of the patients were imaged at baseline. The stage 1B, 2, 3A are also balanced in both arms. EGFR mutation type, just as per natural selection, 55% were having exon 19 and 45% were having L858R, and around 60% of the patients in both the arms had received adjuvant chemotherapy with cisplatin based regimen. So this is the DFS analysis, and we can see that the median DFS is not reached in the osimertinib arm, whereas it is 19.6 months with the placebo. And look at the hazard; it is 0.17. So I think almost the best hazard that probably we would have got in any of the oncology studies, making a significant impact on DFS. This is the primary intention population, that is stage 2, stage 3A, and even in the overall population, intention to treat population, including stage 1B also, the hazard remains at zero point 0.2, and the median DFS is not reached in the osimertinib arm as compared to 27.5 months in the placebo arm. So there is almost an 83% reduction in the risk of recurrence when it concerns to stage 2, stage 3, and when we include stage 1 also, there is almost an 80% reduction in the disease recurrence or death with osimertinib adjuvant setting. These are the 2-year DFS, and we can see that there is almost a 90% 2-year DFS as compared in all the stages as compared to the placebo arm, where the DFS is almost 32% in stage 3A. The highest impact is seen in stage 3A, followed by stage 2, and least in stage 1B, and we can clearly see the massive difference in the DFS percentages. If you look at the subgroup analysis, again, all the subgroups of patients benefited equally, whether they had received adjuvant chemo or not, whether it was L858R or whether it was exon 19, and whether it was stage 1, stage 2, or stage 3. So all patients had benefited. Although patients who had received adjuvant chemotherapy, again, they had a higher delta of benefit. Obviously, that is because they were at a higher risk for recurrence. They must have had higher stages. And patients who did not receive adjuvant chemotherapy had a slight benefit, obviously, because they were probably in a lesser stage and they were less at risk at baseline for recurrence also. Look at the adjuvant chemotherapy use. So again, in stage 1B, 26% received adjuvant, and stage 2, 71%, and stage 3, 80% received adjuvant chemotherapy. So adjuvant chemotherapy use was also allowed and was as per the stage and as per the fitness of the patients. And the duration of adjuvant chemotherapy was around 4 months, with the maximum, with the average of around 3 cycles. This is the DFS in patients who had received adjuvant chemo and not received. And again, we can clearly see that the DFS is much, much higher in the osimertinib arm. And at 2 years, there is almost a 40% difference in patients who had received adjuvant chemo, whereas almost a 30% difference in patients who had not received adjuvant chemo. If you look at the early snapshot of overall survival, so the overall survival is not reached in both the arms, but we can clearly see that at even 5% maturity, we can see that the median OS is almost 100% in osimertinib arm as compared to 93% in the placebo arm. So there is already a 7% OS difference at 2 years follow up only. So the type of recurrence is a key consideration, as we discussed. CNS being a common site of recurrence, and preventing CNS recurrence is an area of unmet need. And how osimertinib crossing the blood-brain barrier is a superior TKI in this setting. And if you look at the type of recurrence in the ADAURA study, what we can see is that there is only 11% patients who had recurrence in the osimertinib arm compared to 46% in the placebo arm. And if you look at the, there is almost a 27% difference in the recurrences. And in the osimertinib arm, majority of the patients with recurrence had local or regional recurrence only, whereas there were only 38% patients who had metastatic recurrence. And again, in the placebo arm, we see that the metastatic recurrence is 61%. So osimertinib has a much lesser recurrence, and even if the recurrence is there, these recurrences are mostly localized recurrences or regional recurrences, and metastatic recurrences are less, saying that probably they are still salvageable with radical chemoradiation when they are recurring. However, in the placebo arm, the recurrences were mostly metastatic, and therefore they are less salvageable. These are the sites of recurrence, and we can see that there were 10% recurrence is there in the CNS in the placebo arm, whereas it is only 1% with osimertinib. So clearly, osimertinib preventing recurrence at most sites, but also in CNS, which is something which is unique to osimertinib. These are the CNS DFS events, and as we discussed, much less events in the osimertinib arm, only 2% as compared to 11% in the placebo arm. This is the CNS DFS difference in the overall population. We can clearly see how osimertinib is winning over. Again, safety summary, and what we can see is that osimertinib, being a very safe drug, higher had hardly any major toxicities compared to the placebo arm. Obviously, the grade 3 toxicity was slightly higher, but not much difference as compared to the placebo. We talk about all causality adverse events, which is affecting more than 10% patients. So again, diarrhea, dry skin, paronychia, stomatitis, pruritus, cough. These were the most common toxicities. Grade 1 to interstitial lung disease was reported in around 3% of patients, and QTC prolongation was reported in around 7% of patients, which are also important toxicities that we need to look into when we are giving osimertinib for such a long duration as 3 years. So to summarize, adjuvant osimertinib is the first targeted agent in global trial to show a statistically significant and clinically meaningful improvement in DFS in stage 1B, 2, and stage 3A EGFR mutated non-small cell lung cancer. There was almost an 80% reduction in the risk of death or recurrence with osimertinib, and DFS at 2 years was almost 40% higher with osimertinib, that is 89% versus 52%. Adjuvant osimertinib also demonstrated a clinically meaningful improvement in CNS DFS as compared to placebo. The safety profile was consistent with the established profile of osimertinib, with hardly any new signals and with mild EGFR TKI class effects as reported, with the median duration of exposure to osimertinib was 22 months in the study. So, adjuvant osimertinib provides a highly effective practice-changing treatment for patients of early stage EGFR mutated non-small cell lung cancer after tumor resection. So, with this, I end my talk, and I thank you all for patient listening, and I thank AstraZeneca again for giving me this opportunity. Thanks a lot. So, if there are any questions or anything, any discussions, we can have a discussion.
Sir, thank you very much for your deliberation. I think there won't be any question. So definitely, I would like to once again thanks you to share your clear-cut views regarding the fast second and third generation TKIs. And again, sir, good night, and please take care. Please be safe in this challenging scenario.
Yeah. So I would request everyone to stay safe and wear mask, uh, keep using the sanitizers all the time, maintain safe distance, and take care of yourself also along with your family as well as the patients. So thank you. Stay safe and good night.
Thank you, sir. Good night.